Welcome back. Joining me now is Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. Senator Lankford, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks. Good to see you again.
It's great to have you back on an important Sunday. You just heard from Governor Gavin Newsom. You heard from Senator Padilla. Are you confident that this new Congress will continue to fund disaster relief for California for as long as is needed, Senator?
But yes is the simple answer to that. I would tell you that our hearts go out. We've been praying for the people of California. We've all, as a nation and quite frankly globally, watched what's happened in Los Angeles. All of us have concerns there. When Republicans met privately with President Trump just about 3 days ago, President Trump opened his statement to everybody saying, we're all watching what's happening in the fires. We're all grieving about that. We're all paying attention, and we know something needs to be done there. So everyone is very focused on this.
Okay, let me ask you about this incoming administration. There will be confirmation hearings. They begin this week. Let me ask you about Tulsi Gabbard, Mr. Trump's pick for Director of National Intelligence. You have said that she needs to clarify where she stands on 702. And just to let our audience know what that is, that's a critical intelligence gathering authority. She consistently opposed it when she was in Congress. But here's what she said this week. She came out in support saying, quote, if confirmed as DNI, I will uphold Americans' Fourth Amendment rights while maintaining vital national security tools like Section 702 to ensure the safety and freedom of the American people. Are Mrs. Gabbard's assurances enough for you, Senator? Are you now a yes on her?
Yeah, I am. And that was a very important piece for me. Obviously, she voted against 702 authority. And just to clarify that authority is for actually trying to be able to track terrorists overseas. That has nothing to do with American citizens or anything that's happening in the United States. It is if someone's planning to attack us overseas, we find out about that, we should be able to act on that. That's what 702 authority allows us to be able to do, is to be able to track international individuals overseas before they come and actually attack us. She voted against that in the House when she was a member of the House of Representatives, and it said she wanted changes. She's now coming in and saying those changes have been done, because even since she was in Congress, there have been quite a few changes that we've made in Congress to make sure we're protecting the civil rights of Americans. But when she came out and said, hey, this is something I'm going to stand for, that is part of the role of the Office of National Intelligence, is to make sure we're actually watching for people to come attack us and stopping them before they do. Okay,
so significant news made here. You are now a yes on Tulsi Gabbard. Let me ask you about a top agenda item for President-elect Trump, his mass deportation policy. In my one-on-one interview with him, he said that is agenda item number one. He said he wants to deport everyone who is here illegally. I want to ask you, Senator, do you agree with that? Is that your plan, to deport everyone who's here illegally?
Well, to be very clear, if someone has violated the law in the United States, there should be consequences for violating the law in the United States. I'm not going to come out and say, hey, if someone breaks the law, we're just going to look the other way. That's not who we are. We are a nation of laws. If we have a law, we should enforce that law. That's who we are as Americans, and I think that's one of the things the president made very clear when he sat down with you in that great interview, was we have to. This is the law of the United States. We're going to do that. He also made very clear he's going to go after people that have committed additional crimes here in the United States. He's going to go after people that a court has already said to them they have to be removed. We have over 1 million people in the United States right now that a federal court has already looked at their case, examined the facts, and said, no, you have what's called a final order of removal. You have to leave the country, but they haven't left the country. That should be the first priority for those individuals. There's some that are still working through their asylum cases and such. Let them work through their cases on that. But once a court has said you have to leave, we can't just ignore a court order.
Senator, you have in the past talked about how logistically challenging this is. Obviously, it's expensive. It could cost tens of billions of dollars every single year. Do you think it's realistic to remove all of the people who are here illegally, more than 11 million people by some estimates?
Yeah, so there's this perception that somehow there's going to be a gathering of buses out in the city square and everybody's going to have to load up and go out. That's just not how it happens in real life. This will take a long time. This will take some dollars. But again, if somebody's committed a criminal act If somebody has a final order of removal from a court, we should not just ignore that and to say the court rulings don't count, that we're going to ignore what the court says. When a federal court says this has to be done, we are a nation of laws. We should actually enforce that.
If you'll permit me, I do have a little bit of a process question, but it's the big debate on Capitol Hill right now, because obviously President-elect Trump wants to address the border. He wants to get tax cuts passed. He's proposed a slate of them, including extending the Trump-era tax cuts. Do you think this should be addressed in one big bill, as President-elect Trump has said is his preference? House Speaker Mike Johnson has said that's his preference. Or two bills, which Majority Leader Thune, for example, has said might be more realistic?
Well, I would say whether we do it in one bill or two bill, we need to get this done. I know there's a lot of this buzz in Washington, D.C. about what's the process of how things are going to get done. I would say probably no one outside of Washington, D.C. cares one way or the other. The issues are still the same. We've got to be able to get our taxes balanced out. We're not going to have a $4 trillion tax increase at the end of this year, so we have a ticking time bomb on taxes. Let's get that resolved. We have to deal with border security issues. That's what the American people demanded in their election. That was very clear. The American people want to be able to get our economy back on track. That's a lot of the energy issues that are out there on that. They want greater government efficiency. We have $2 trillion in overspending this last year. Everyone knows you can't do that. So people are looking for, how do we get more efficiency? How do we actually get our economy back on track? How do we actually enforce existing laws? And how do we make sure our tax policy is actually fair?
Yeah.
Those things we need to do in the first 5 or 6 months. Whether it's one bill or two, I don't think it will matter to the American people. Let's just get it done.
Senator, finally, I have to get your reaction to comments this week. President-elect Trump not ruling out using military force to take Greenland, which is a territory of Denmark, which is a NATO ally. Do you support that type of action against a NATO ally?
The United States is not going to invade another country. That's not who we are. The president speaks very boldly on a lot of things. We've seen this over how he's done negotiations, whether it be for real estate or whether how he served as a great president just 4 years ago. He makes a bold statement. He gets everyone to the table. You sit down and be able to talk it out. He's done this with Canada, with Mexico, with Panama. He's going to continue to do this. Quite frankly, the president's been very clear. He is the president that kept American troops out of war. He is not looking to be able to go start a war to go expand American troops, but he does want to be able to protect America's national security, and part of that's our economic security and our future.
Senator, very quickly, because we're just about out of time, he did propose tariffs on Denmark. Would you support that?
Yeah. Well, he's actually proposed tariffs on just about everybody at this point. He said, we're going to have fair trade across the entire world. We're going to make sure that American workers are not abused. And quite frankly, what he's looking for and what he said over and over again is he wants companies around the world that sell in the United States to come build it in the United States. So he wants to open up the country to more jobs, more economic activity. So he's laid a marker out there internationally saying we're not going to be taken advantage of anymore.
Senator Lankford, always great to have you. Thank you so much for joining the program. We really appreciate it.
You bet. Good to see you again.